Have you ever wondered if Disney's Mulan was based on a real person? Was there truly a young woman who defied tradition, disguised herself as a man, and went to war in ancient China? The story of Mulan has captured imaginations for centuries. But beyond the animated songs and sword fights lies a deep mystery, one that blends history, legend, and unanswered questions. Today we uncover the truth behind Mulan. Who was she really? A historical warrior, or just a timeless tale? The earliest written record of Mulan comes from a poem called the Ballad of Mulan, believed to be composed during the Northern Wei dynasty, around the 5th or 6th century. But even this poem leaves much to the imagination. It doesn't mention her real name, her birthplace, or any specific dates. It tells the story of a young girl who takes her father's place in the army, fights bravely for over a decade, and then returns home to her old life, unrecognized as a woman throughout. But that's just a poem, so the question remains, was it based on truth? Let's look at what we do know. The Northern Wei dynasty was a time of great conflict in China. The empire constantly faced threats from northern tribes and internal rebellions. During these years, it wasn't uncommon for ordinary citizens to be conscripted into military service. It's plausible that a woman fearing for her aging father's life might have disguised herself to serve in his place. It wouldn't have been easy, but not impossible. Some scholars believe that the Mulan legend may have originated from multiple oral traditions passed down in northern China, where steppe warfare and horse riding were, pretty common. Interestingly, the original ballad describes Mulan as a skilled rider and archer, traits often associated with nomadic or borderland people rather than Han Chinese culture. That's an important clue. But there's no solid historical record, no military files, no royal decrees, no tomb inscription that definitively proves a woman named Mulan served in the Chinese army. In fact, some historians argue that the story was always meant to be allegorical, a patriotic symbol, a tale of loyalty, bravery, and familial love. By the Tang dynasty, hundreds of years later, Mulan was already a cultural icon. She was featured in operas, songs, and stories that painted her as the ideal woman, brave yet devoted to her family and the emperor. Her tale was adapted and modified many times to fit the values of each era. In one version, she ends up committing suicide rather than being forced to marry a royal official. In another, she is granted a high government position and becomes a symbol of female empowerment. The story evolved with time, but always centered around the same core theme: sacrifice. Fast forward to modern times, and Mulan's legend has taken on a new form. In 1998, Disney introduced the character of Mulan to a global audience. This version brought in new elements: a lucky cricket, a dragon sidekick, and catchy musical numbers. But at its heart, it preserved that same message: a young woman defying expectations to protect her loved ones and prove her worth. However, Disney's version also brought criticism. Some scholars in China viewed the film as a Western interpretation of Chinese values, reshaping the legend into something that fits an American narrative of individualism and feminism. And then came the 2020 live-action adaptation. This version tried to stay closer to Chinese aesthetics and included references to qi, honor, and the imperial system. But it too was met with mixed reviews, some praising its visuals and cultural depth, others pointing out historical inconsistencies. But despite all the retellings and reimaginings, one thing remains true: Mulan endures. Whether she was a real warrior or a fictional heroine, her story speaks to something universal: the struggle to break free from societal expectations, the courage to protect family, the strength to stand for what is right, even in the face of danger. So, who was the real Mulan? Perhaps we'll never know. Maybe she was a young woman whose story was lost to time, remembered only through legend. Or maybe she never existed at all, just a symbol created to inspire generations of women and men alike. But in a way, that mystery is what makes her powerful. Because Mulan is more than just a name. She's a mirror, a myth, a message, a reminder that courage can come from anywhere, even from someone history forgot. And maybe that's exactly how legends are born. Thanks for watching.